Captain Miguel Santos had been casting nets into these same waters for 37 years. The pre-dawn ritual was sacred, coffee steam mingling with salt spray, the gentle rumbles of his boat's engine, and the familiar weight of expectation as he prepared for another day's catch. But as the first pale fingers of sunrise touched the horizon, something impossible painted itself across the ocean's surface. A soft, ethereal blue-green luminescence began to pulse beneath the waves, as if someone had awakened a sleeping constellation in the depths. Miguel's weathered hands froze on the wheel, his coffee mug slipping forgotten to the deck. The glow wasn't uniform. It moved with intention, flowing in ribbons and spirals that defied every natural law he'd learned from decades at sea. Schools of fish, normally invisible in the morning gloom, were now outlined in living light, their forms dancing like underwater aurora. "This is Captain Santos to Harbor Control," Miguel's voice cracked as he keyed the radio. His mind raced. Report this impossible sight and risk sounding insane, or stay silent and let whatever this was spread unchecked. 37 years of credibility weighed against the evidence of his own eyes. He made his choice. "I need to report an anomalous marine event. You're not going to believe this." The ocean itself had become a canvas of impossible beauty, transforming from the familiar dark expanse into something alien yet magnificent. Miguel Santos, who had witnessed countless sunrises over these waters, found himself witnessing the dawn of a new world, one where the very sea had learned to dream in light. "Mom, you have to see this!" 17-year-old Zara Chen thrust her phone toward her mother, the screen blazing with blue-green light from Miami Beach. "Everyone's posting it. Look, this one's from Norway." Her mother squinted at the endless stream of impossible videos. "Honey, this has to be fake." 3 million views in 2 hours, Mom. It's happening everywhere." In Miami, teenagers screamed with delight as bioluminescent waves crashed against South Beach, their phones held high against the ethereal blue-green glow. A fishing boat captain near Norway's fjords broadcast live on Facebook, his weathered hands trembling as he panned across waters that pulsed like a living heartbeat. In Tokyo Bay, office workers pressed against skyscraper windows, filming the harbor that had transformed into liquid starlight. News anchors struggled to maintain composure as footage streamed in faster than they could process. Surfers riding glowing waves in Australia, children playing in luminous tide pools in California, cargo ships navigating seas that looked like digital aurora. The hashtag #AglowingOceans topped global trends within 2 hours. Scientists began appearing on emergency broadcasts, their faces grave with uncertainty. "We've never witnessed marine bioluminescence on this scale," Dr. Sarah Chen admitted on CNN, her laboratory's computers struggling to analyze the thousands of water samples being rushed in from around the globe. The ocean had become humanity's largest screen, displaying something magnificent and terrifying that defied all explanation. Within hours of the first reports, scientific institutions worldwide erupted into coordinated chaos. At Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution, Dr. Sarah Chen's hands trembled as she reviewed satellite imagery showing the impossible. Entire ocean basins pulsing with ethereal blue-green light. Emergency protocols activated across continents as marine biologists, oceanographers, and quantum physicists abandoned their weekend plans, rushing to laboratories that had become makeshift command centers. The National Science Foundation issued unprecedented funding authorizations, while research vessels from 12 nations diverted course toward the phenomenon's epicenters. In Tokyo, Professor Yamamoto's team worked frantically to modify deep-sea submersibles, their screens displaying real-time bioluminescence readings that defied every known biological parameter. The glow wasn't diminishing. It was intensifying, spreading in geometric patterns that suggested intelligence rather than random biological activity. "This can't be right," Dr. Chen whispered, running the analysis a third time. Her hands trembled as she compared the readings to every known bioluminescent compound. The structures defied organic chemistry, too complex, too perfect. Her phone buzzed with texts from colleagues worldwide reporting identical, impossible results. She faced a choice that would define her career: publish findings that would be dismissed as fraud, or stay silent while something unprecedented consumed the oceans. As she cross-referenced global seismic data, a chilling pattern emerged. The glow had begun simultaneously at tectonic fault lines worldwide. This wasn't just biological; something deep beneath the ocean floor was awakening, and humanity's greatest scientific minds were racing against time to understand what they were truly facing. Within hours, the impossible became inevitable. Satellite feeds from around the globe painted a stunning picture of transformation as every major ocean began to emit the same ethereal blue-green luminescence. The Pacific's glow stretched from Japan to California, creating an unbroken chain of light visible from space. The Atlantic pulsed with rhythmic waves of bioluminescence that seemed to follow the moon's gravitational pull, while the Indian Ocean blazed like liquid starlight against the darkness of night. Maria pressed her palm against the cool window of her Sydney apartment, feeling the building vibrate with the harbor's pulsing glow. The opera house's shells rippled with moving light, each wave casting shadows that danced across her daughter's sleeping face. The air hummed with an electric tension that made her skin tingle. Below, tourists and locals stood mesmerized on Circular Quay, their voices a distant murmur of awe and fear. The Mediterranean transformed into a glowing jewel, its luminescence painting ancient shorelines in colors never before witnessed by human eyes. From the Arctic's icy waters to the tropical warmth of the Caribbean, every ocean had joined this mysterious symphony of light. Scientists scrambled to understand the synchronicity. How could a phenomenon originating in one location spread so rapidly across disconnected bodies of water? The bioluminescent organisms seemed to be communicating, coordinating their display on a planetary scale. As dawn broke across different time zones, the glow persisted, defying the natural patterns that had governed marine bioluminescence for millennia. Earth's oceans had become a single, pulsing organism of light. As news of the glowing oceans spreads across global networks, coastal cities erupt into chaos and wonder. In Miami, crowds surge toward the beaches despite emergency cordons, their faces bathed in the ethereal blue-green radiance that transforms the familiar coastline into an alien landscape. Traffic arteries clog as millions attempt to either flee inland or witness the phenomenon firsthand. Detective Ray Martinez stood at the police barricade, torn between duty and wonder. His radio crackled with reports of massive crowds pushing toward the glowing beaches. Behind him, his own daughter pressed against their apartment window, live streaming to her followers. "Dad, please," she called down. "Just 5 minutes by the water." He looked at the ethereal beauty beyond the barriers, then at the fear in his captain's eyes. One choice could cost him his job. The other might cost him his daughter's trust forever. Children point in amazement while their parents clutch them tighter, torn between terror and fascination. The luminescent waves crash against seawalls with hypnotic rhythm. each surge painting the city's skyline in pulsating light. Social media explodes with theories: biblical prophecy, alien contact, environmental collapse. Scientists on live television stumble over explanations as the phenomenon defies every known law of marine biology. In harbors worldwide, fishing fleets remain docked, their crews refusing to venture into waters that now seem alive with otherworldly intelligence. The ocean's glow reflects in millions of eyes, marking humanity's first collective glimpse of a world transformed, where the boundary between the known and unknowable has dissolved beneath waves of living light. Dr. Elena Vasquez adjusted her diving mask one final time before plunging into what had become humanity's greatest mystery. The research vessel Cousteau bobbed gently above as she and her team descended into the luminescent Pacific, their underwater cameras capturing every surreal moment. The water itself seemed alive, pulsing with ethereal blue-green light that intensified with each meter of descent. Schools of fish moved like living constellations, their scales reflecting the ocean's newfound radiance. At 30 meters, Elena's breath caught. The seafloor had transformed into a carpet of glowing organisms, unlike anything in marine biology textbooks. Coral formations pulsed in synchronized rhythms, while jellyfish drifted past like living lanterns. Her team's instruments recorded impossible readings: bioluminescent compounds that shouldn't exist, genetic sequences that defied classification. Elena's heart pounded as her depth gauge flickered. The bioluminescence was interfering with her instruments. 30 meters down, with equipment failing, she faced a brutal choice: surface now and lose this unprecedented opportunity, or stay and risk everything for science. "Elena," Dr. Chen's voice crackled through static, "your readings are going crazy up here. Get out of there." She looked at the glowing samples in her collection bag, then at her oxygen gauge. 60 seconds to decide. As she collected water samples that glowed like liquid starlight in her containers, Elena realized they weren't just witnessing a scientific anomaly. They were documenting the birth of something entirely new, something that would redefine life on Earth. Dr. Elena Vasquez pressed her face against the submersible's porthole, her breath fogging the reinforced glass as they descended past the 4,000-meter mark. The Mariana Trench had always been Earth's final frontier, but tonight it pulsed with an otherworldly radiance that defied every law of marine biology she knew. The luminescent cascade wasn't random. It moved with purpose, flowing in synchronized waves that seemed to originate from something massive in the abyssal depths. Her sonar pinged frantically, detecting a structure the size of a city block resting on the seafloor. As they approached, the entity revealed itself, an ancient, translucent creature of impossible proportions, its body undulating like a living cathedral of light. Bioluminescent neurons fired across its surface in complex patterns, each pulse sending waves of blue-green radiance rippling through the water column above. The creature's tentacles, thick as subway tunnels, stirred sediment that had remained undisturbed for millennia. This wasn't just marine life. This was something that had slumbered in Earth's deepest places since before human civilization, now awakening to bathe the world's oceans in its primordial glow. "We need to surface, now." Elena's voice shook as the entity's massive eye, if that's what it was, seemed to focus on their submersible. Dr. Rodriguez, her dive partner, stared transfixed at the neural patterns cascading across the creature's surface. "Rodriguez!" She grabbed his shoulder. "We're not equipped for first contact." The entity pulsed brighter, and she felt something brush against her mind. Ancient, vast, and utterly alien. Within hours of the oceanic phenomenon reaching global awareness, black helicopters descended like mechanical vultures along every major coastline. The military response was swift, calculated, and eerily uniform across nations, as if rehearsed for decades. Armored vehicles rolled onto beaches where families had gathered in wonder just hours before, their massive treads crushing abandoned sandcastles and forgotten beach towels. Soldiers in hazmat suits erected towering chain-link barriers, their movements precise and emotionless behind tinted visors. Colonel Sarah Barnes read the orders twice before looking up at her aide. Toxic algae bloom? She gestured toward the window where impossible light danced across the waves. Sir, that's clearly... Those are your orders, Colonel. The general's voice was ice. She watched families being turned away from beaches, children crying as soldiers blocked their view of wonder. 30 years of service warred with her conscience. Follow orders, or become the leak that would end her career, but might save the truth. News helicopters were grounded, social media posts mysteriously vanished, and anyone with compelling footage found their devices confiscated during routine safety inspections. Behind the cordons, scientists in unmarked vehicles collected water samples with trembling hands, their instruments detecting energy signatures that shouldn't exist. Emergency broadcast systems crackled with sanitized updates while the sea continued its ethereal dance, indifferent to humanity's desperate attempts to contain the impossible. The cover-up was comprehensive, methodical, and utterly futile against an ocean that had found its voice. Dr. Chen's hands trembled as she adjusted the underwater camera's focus, watching the impossible unfold before her eyes. The massive creature, easily the size of a city block, hung motionless in the abyssal depths, its translucent body pulsing with deliberate sequences of bioluminescent patterns. What had initially appeared as random flashing now revealed itself as something far more profound, a language of light. The patterns were mathematical, precise, repeating in complex sequences that spoke of intelligence beyond anything humanity had encountered. Spirals of electric blue cascaded along its membrane-like skin, followed by geometric bursts of gold and emerald. Each pulse seemed to respond to the research vessel's presence, as if the creature was attempting communication across the vast evolutionary divide. Sarah, what do I do? Dr. Chen's voice cracked as the creature's pattern shifted, responding to her words. Her daughter's face flashed in her mind. What world was she about to leave behind? The entity pulsed, waiting. Every choice felt momentous. Respond and potentially trigger something irreversible, or remain silent and miss humanity's greatest opportunity. Her finger hovered over the light controls. I'm going to try to talk back. The creature's body contracted slightly, and suddenly the entire surrounding water column erupted in sympathetic bioluminescence. Thousands of smaller organisms responding to its call, creating a living constellation in the midnight depths. This wasn't just a creature. It was a conductor orchestrating an ocean-wide symphony of light, and humanity had stumbled upon the most significant moment in the history of interspecies contact. The revelation struck Dr. Chen like a physical blow as she stared at the data streaming across her monitors. The bioluminescent cascade wasn't random. It was a desperate chemical response to unprecedented levels of ocean acidification and warming. The marine organisms were literally burning through their energy reserves, their cellular machinery pushed beyond all evolutionary limits. Each pulse of ethereal light represented millions of microscopic deaths, a biological SOS signal transmitted across the planet's neural network of currents. The ocean wasn't celebrating, it was screaming. Ancient coral colonies that had survived ice ages were now glowing their final breaths, their calcium carbonate skeletons dissolving in the increasingly acidic waters. Phytoplankton, the lungs of the earth, were overproducing bioluminescent proteins in a futile attempt to survive the chemical holocaust humanity had unleashed. The beautiful aurora beneath the waves was nature's death rattle, visible from space, a planetary-scale distress signal that could no longer be ignored. "We have days, not weeks," Dr. Chen burst into the emergency council meeting, datapad shaking in her hands. "Every pulse burns through millions of years of evolutionary energy reserves. It's not celebration, it's suicide." The room fell silent. "Doctor," the Secretary General said carefully, "are you telling us the oceans are dying?" She looked at the glowing harbor outside. "I'm telling us they're screaming, and we're running out of time to listen." The glowing waters weren't a miracle. They were a countdown to ecological apocalypse, and humanity had mere days to respond. In conference rooms across 6 continents, flags of once distant nations now stand side by side as world leaders witness something unprecedented. The glowing oceans have become humanity's greatest unifying force. The ethereal blue-green luminescence streaming through reinforced windows serves as a constant reminder of what's at stake. President Chen's holographic image flickers alongside Prime Minister Singh and Chancellor Muller as they finalize the Global Ocean Preservation Accord. The bioluminescent phenomenon has revealed the interconnectedness of all marine ecosystems. What affects one ocean affects them all. Military vessels are being retrofitted as research stations. Nuclear submarines converted to deep-sea monitoring platforms. 6 months ago, you wanted to sink our research vessel, Admiral Chen said, extending her hand to her Russian counterpart. Today we share sonar data that could save both our coastlines. Admiral Petrov gripped her hand firmly. The ocean does not recognize our borders, comrade. Perhaps we should stop recognizing them too. Behind them, Brazilian and Norwegian scientists worked side by side, their screens showing coordinated sanctuary proposals that spanned hemispheres. Children worldwide watched the proceedings on screens, their faces illuminated by both artificial light and the gentle glow emanating from nearby coastlines. This is no longer about national interests or territorial waters. It's about preserving a miracle that belongs to every living being on Earth. The ocean's luminous cry for help has become a beacon of hope, proving that when faced with wonder and responsibility, humanity can indeed unite as one species, one planet, one glowing future. Dr. Chen's throat burned as she breathed the oxygenated fluid, her words carrying humanity's response to the ancient mind. "We understand your terms," she managed, "but our people, they need time to change." The entity's pattern shifted, not anger, but something like sadness. Images flooded her mind. Dead coral reefs, plastic gyres, rising seas. Her daughter's face appeared in her thoughts. The entity paused, then pulsed once. Acknowledgement, perhaps mercy. She had spoken for her species' future. The terms are crystalline in their simplicity. Cease the poisoning of the waters. End the relentless extraction. Honor the sacred boundaries of the deep. In return, the oceans will continue to breathe life into the world, their currents carrying prosperity rather than retribution. Dr. Chen's hands tremble as she translates the entity's conditions, each word etching itself into the consciousness of every world leader present. The luminescence pulses rhythmically, matching the heartbeat of the planet itself, as humanity confronts its greatest choice. The ocean's glow intensifies, casting ethereal light across the faces of those who must decide Earth's fate. Presidents and premiers exchange glances heavy with the weight of species survival. The ancient being waits, its patience vast as the tides, while humanity grapples with surrendering its destructive dominion over the seas. This moment crystallizes into history, the instant when Earth's children either embrace guardianship or face the consequences of their endless taking. 3 weeks after the oceans first ignited with impossible light, the phenomenon begins its gradual retreat. Dr. Sarah Chen stands on the same pier where she first witnessed the awakening, watching as the ethereal blue-green luminescence slowly dims across the harbor. The water still pulses with bioluminescent life, but the intensity has diminished from blinding brilliance to a gentle, otherworldly shimmer. Microscopic organisms that once blazed like liquid starlight now flicker sporadically, their energy reserves seemingly depleted. Coast Guard vessels drift silently through the fading glow, their crews documenting the decline with scientific precision. The maritime world holds its collective breath, uncertain whether this signals the end of the miracle or merely a transition to something else entirely. Fishing boats venture cautiously back toward deeper waters, their crews both relieved and oddly saddened to see the supernatural spectacle waning. As twilight approaches, the ocean's glow competes weakly with the setting sun, creating a melancholic beauty that speaks of endings and beginnings. The mystery that captivated humanity may be dissolving, but its impact on marine ecosystems, scientific understanding, and the human psyche will ripple through generations. The fading light carries with it both answers and new questions about the delicate balance between the known and the unknowable. 5 years have passed since the oceans first began their luminous dance. What once sparked fear and uncertainty has blossomed into humanity's greatest partnership. Floating research cities dot the horizon, their bioluminescent architecture harmonizing with the ocean's natural glow. Children born after the phenomenon know no world where the seas don't sing with light. To them, the darkness of old photographs seems alien and lifeless. The glowing organisms have revealed secrets that revolutionized medicine, energy, and our understanding of consciousness itself. Ocean farmers tend vast kelp forests that pulse with bioluminescent rhythms, producing clean energy and sustainable food. Marine biologists work alongside the intelligent light clusters, learning a new form of communication that transcends language. Along coastlines worldwide, the evening ritual remains unchanged, yet transformed. Families still gather at water's edge, but now they come bearing gifts of biodegradable art that the ocean incorporates into its ever-shifting light shows. The boundary between human creativity and oceanic intelligence has dissolved into something unprecedented, a true symbiosis. As twilight deepens into indigo, the ocean responds with cascades of azure and gold, as if celebrating humanity's evolution from conqueror to collaborator. The water whispers its ancient wisdom in wavelengths of pure beauty, and for the first time in millennia, humanity truly listens. The day the oceans began to glow, we thought we were witnessing the end of our world. Instead, we discovered we were seeing the beginning of a new one. The bioluminescent transformation that swept across our planet's waters reminded us of a fundamental truth we had forgotten. Nature doesn't ask for our permission to change, to adapt, to become something unprecedented and beautiful. In our fear of the unknown, we nearly missed the profound gift being offered. a reminder that even in our darkest moments, light can emerge from the depths. As I stand on this shore tonight, watching the waves pulse with their ethereal blue radiance, I'm struck by how perfectly this mirrors the human experience. We spend so much time fearing change, clinging to what we know, that we forget change is not our enemy. It's our greatest teacher. The glowing oceans didn't mark humanity's end. They marked our beginning to truly see. To see that we are not separate from nature, but part of its endless capacity for wonder. To see that sometimes the most beautiful transformations come disguised as catastrophes. And perhaps most importantly, to see that hope, like bioluminescence, often shines brightest in the darkness.